That's the former AFN National Chief Phil Fontaine just minutes ago on this program, laying out his expectations for Friday's meeting between the Prime Minister and First Nations leaders, including National Chief Sean Atleo. Will, though, the Attawapiskat Chief Teresa Spence boycott of the meeting now because the Governor-General is not attending, send a negative tone and limit the potential progress? Should the GG be at the table, or is Chief Spence making what some see as an unreasonable demand? What will be the measure of success or failure on Friday? Joining me now, Greg Rickford, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indian Affairs. Beside him is Paul Dewar, the NDP Foreign Affairs critic. And beside him, Carolyn Bennett, the Liberal Aboriginal Affairs critic. Our regular panel is back. As very obviously fraught times. There's a lot going on. Let's start with today's developments, Greg Rickford. Chief Spence has now said she will not attend the meeting, which she earlier said she would attend, because she says her original intent was to have the Governor-General there. The Governor-General said he will not be there. Now she won't meet. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the Governor-General. I can say that that we are building on a meeting that took place late in November and from the Crown First Nation gathering to continue around key points of Aboriginal economic development and treaty matters. These are policy discussions. That may be why the Governor-General wouldn't typically wade into that kind of discussion. This is an opportunity for the Prime Minister, the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs. I will be there as well to sit down with First Nations leadership. We've left it with the Assembly of First Nations, who we have every bit of confidence will bring a group of leaders that have certain expertise and input on those three key areas. So we're looking forward to that opportunity.
Let me just pick up on two things you said before I bring in the opposition. One, this is the follow-up. I know the government keeps saying that, but it's quite clear, and I spoke to AFN Chief Sean Atleo about this, that this meeting took place. It wasn't on the regular schedule. There was a protest and there was a lot of pressure, and this meeting was scheduled kind of at the last minute. Even he didn't know when exactly there were going to be a meeting. So the sense that it wasn't actually a planned follow-up. The second thing is, if it was a follow-up, the Governor-General was at the first meeting. Why not then follow it up at the second, as many request?
Well, this isn't a Crown First Nations gathering. This is a meeting that builds on the meetings that have taken place. I think National Chief Atleo will acknowledge that a meeting took place late November, and while no specific dates would have been given, there was obviously consensus that next steps had to be looked at, and the Prime Minister, as recently as yesterday, has said that this won't be the only meeting, but I think Friday is an important opportunity for us to perhaps clarify issues from both perspectives, both sides on this, if you will. There may be others on the meeting, at the meeting on Friday, and then we'll move forward from there.
All right. Carolyn, you met with Chief Spence today. Just so you know, the Assembly of First Nations was going to have a press conference today at 2 o'clock Eastern time to talk about what their expectations would be for Friday's meeting. They called that meeting off at the last minute, and Hannah Thibodeau, our colleague, got this from Jenna Young, who's the spokesperson for Chief Atleo, said, quote, "The meeting on Friday is not and never was only with Chief Spence. The Prime Minister agreed to meet with the delegation of First Nations leaders as coordinated by the Assembly of First Nations. This is what Chief Spence and others have been calling for since she started her hunger strike on December 11th. But she says she's not meeting because the GG's not there. When you spoke to her today, what did she tell you?
Well, she was very clear about that's been her ask from the very beginning, that there would be a meeting of the Prime Minister and the Governor-General for them to hear from First Nations leaders about the issues that concern them around economic development, their treaties, and resource sharing. As you know,
why did she accept the meeting in the first place?
Well, I think that what happened, if you'll remember, is Sean Atleo sent a letter to the Prime Minister last Thursday asking for a meeting on the anniversary of the Crown First Nations gathering, January 24th. Right away, Chief Spence said, no, that's too far away. And the next morning, the Prime Minister said, okay, January 11th. The issue being that her ask hadn't changed. She still has always wanted a meeting with the Governor-General in order to...
But to be fair, she said she would attend the meeting before, and the Governor-General, and I interviewed him, he said he wasn't going to meet.
No, but that was something that he'd said a long time before. The Prime Minister has the obligation now to pick up the phone and ask the Governor General to come to this meeting. As it is right now, the Prime Minister apparently is only going to be the first 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes of the meeting, which isn't well, which is what the chiefs have told me. But if I think that's great if Greg's groaning, because it means that hopefully that they will stay and listen to what First Nations leaders are saying to the government. But the Governor General is the representative of the Crown. The trees are with the Crown. But this is hugely important to Chief Spence.
But why? Politically, and maybe just bring Paul Dewar. True, it's important that the treaties were done with the Crown.
Yeah.
But things have evolved a lot since then. Any deal will be done with elected officials. We all know that. It's not necessary for the Crown to come in. We know Canada is an independent nation. Why is it unreasonable for Chief Spence to demand that the Governor General comes to, when the Prime Minister is willing to sit down? What difference does it make?
Well, I think it's a matter of perception here, and that last year we had the Crown and the First Nations meetings. And for First Nations, I think Canadians have to understand that they see the relationship going back to even before Confederation. And that was with the Crown. But let me just quote to you from last year what the Prime Minister said, and I think it's important. He said, the greatest respect that we can show to First Nations men and women is to provide them with the tools, to credit them with the capacity, and then allow them to move forward. We all need to move forward. I think what he was saying should be respected. The problem was, and this happened after the apology, is that we had these words, we all supported, and I lauded the Prime Minister at the time for the apology. But then the action didn't follow. That's what this is really all about.
But we're trying to get
why idle no more? Why Teresa Spence doing what she's doing? Why the frustration?
Why?
Is because the words of the Prime Minister weren't followed with action. And that's the dilemma for the government, is that they need to show that they're serious about this.
All right, let me just keep this. There's a lot of issues here, and I want to let's just focus quickly just on the Governor General, because symbols matter.
They do.
Right? And I appreciate that. By the same token, here you have Chief Spence, right? She's dismissed this Deloitte and Touche audit as a distraction. No, it's a real audit. I mean, there's real legitimate questions about that.
Yes.
She said she would attend the meeting. Now she's not going to. I guess the question is, and so now we don't know what she's going to do with her hunger strike, her action. We don't know.
We know she won't stop it until there is a meeting with the Governor General and the Prime Minister.
Oh, you're saying that she told you she won't stop the hunger action until the Governor General sits down?
Yes. That's what she said from the beginning. That's what December 11th. That was very, very clear. This is, and as you said,
did she
Evan,
tell you that? Sorry, this is okay. So you're saying until the Governor General attends the meeting, she will continue on this.
This has been
action.
clear from the beginning, as you said, Evan, to the Parliamentary Secretary, that the Governor General was there January 24th last year. This is not unreasonable for her to expect. If we're going to push reset and do as Paul has said.